And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. It's just Tom and Josh today. LOOPcast loaded. I can't remember what we ended up calling it, but we have a fantastic show prepared for you today. Of course, the LOOPcast brought to you by The Loop, every American Catholic's favorite morning newsletter. So, I mean, it's time to subscribe if you haven't. Go ahead, Josh.
If you miss Erica, you got to watch The Deep. Great
yes.
episode dropped yesterday. We had a lot of people talking about it. Erica and I worked a little bit of a collab on that, but she did most of it. I'm going to give her the credit, but She did that deep episode, and I gave that speech to a conference of Catholic jurists yesterday. So it's really good content, and I think people would enjoy it. So watch Erica's The Deep.
Yeah, it was a great team effort. It was like Erica wrote a phenomenal script. I know you looked it over. Simon and I were just trying to get it to perform well on YouTube and doing all the graphics and editing and stuff. So all around fantastic. And then we have the transcript of that in the Loop as well. So go check that out. But what I would like to provide on today's show, James Comey, former FBI director, indicted. I believe one of the first indictments of its kind, in that the first former FBI director that had indictment brought against him by a federal prosecutor. So I have all the details on that so that there's no confusion. There's a lot of accusations being thrown around of a political witch hunt. Does that sound familiar? So I just want to cut through all that and get to the facts, okay? We have some new information available about the potential motives of the ICE shooter. Again, we're getting some weird things thrown around on that. I just have the facts, what's been presented by the FBI, what we now know about it, and then some extremist stuff going forward as well. And then Twilight Zone good news. It's going to be a great Friday show. Best way to help us out, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. I just realized looking up at Josh and I look like a prosecutor from the 90s. And like a 90s TV show. So this is like very appropriate. I didn't even plan this.
I know you're just like, I got to wear a suit and tie because Josh wore it last time. That's what you're thinking.
That's what some are saying. Some are
saying. Your wardrobe. I guess I do because, you feel so.
I wouldn't go that far, Joshua. I wouldn't go that far. Okay, so we have, breaking news as of last night. And the reason on the timing, I believe the statute of limitations was coming up on it about 5 years. That's correct. And so they had to do it. It was now or never if they're going to get him on this specific charge. So September 25th, 2025, the federal grand jury in Eastern District of Virginia, this is Alexandria, indicted former FBI Director James B. Comey Jr. on 2 felony counts related to his congressional testimony. The charges center on the allegations that Comey made false statements and obstructed a Senate investigation into FBI leaks about sensitive investigations, including those tied to the 2016 presidential election. For those curious on what those leaks were about, it had to do with Russia. It had to do with the Russiagate hoax. I think it's really important to be specific about this because there's many people in the country that actually still believe that actually happened, that there was Russian collusion in the election. We've had multiple trials since then. There's been no indictments on that, almost as if the damage was already done. The public damage is already done. So I think it's important to get clarity for Americans. So I'm happy to see what comes out of this. This is the first federal indictment of a former FBI director for congressional testimony. The indictment was unsealed the same day it was handed down, just days before the statute of limitations was set to expire. So I have the specific charges in front of me here, and the indictment was... Go ahead, Josh.
Just 2 seconds before you get into that.
Yeah, go for it.
The reason why, to our listeners, what Tom's getting at, why it's so important, there's this concept called the illusionary truth effect. And it's the tendency to believe something that's false information to be correct, even after repeated attempts to refute it. And so what happens is the Russiagate thing got broadcast far and wide with mainstream media Death Star, and it just became accepted as fact. Now, despite the fact that it has been proven to be a total hoax, absolutely not true at all, doesn't matter. There's a good 1/3 of the Republic, 1/3 of our fellow countrymen who still think it absolutely is absolutely true. And it doesn't matter how many times you say it, they're like, no. Of course, Donald Trump was in with the Russians to get elected. Like,
yeah, I mean, it largely derailed most of his first term in office, like in terms of legitimacy, which, again, off of something that wasn't right. So that's why I'm actually, I don't know, I'm curious to see like political implications of this, Josh. I mean, in a lot of ways, I hate using this phrase, the Rubicon's been passed when it comes to political witch hunts, as we saw what was done to Donald Trump the last time. But I think it's important to hash this out. It's important to actually, because what happens to me is people go in front of Congress and they lie all the time. I mean, it's almost like shockingly brazen lying under oath that I see all the time, and no one gets punished. If anything, people get promoted. So this would be a great precedent to set. Like, hey, guess what? If you lie in front of Congress and it's obvious and there's real damage, as there was in this case, you're going to jail.
Now, just to set the record, it used to be that they would go before Congress and just say half-truths. something that's technically true, but they don't tell you everything. You're right. More recently, they've been just selling outright lies.
Right.
And it's not just, this would not be the first time, like, oh, let's indict this guy. Well, I mean, Steve Bannon got indicted for not testifying to Congress, and he spent time in jail.
Yeah.
It's always conservatives who get the full force of law, the book thrown at them. It's never the left. It's never liberals. So this is like the first time I can think of somebody who's definitely on the left. And what's funny is even the left thinks James Comey. For the longest time, they thought James Comey had sabotaged the 2016 election because the emails that he released, the report on the emails of Hillary. And so they blamed James Comey for losing the 2016 election. So ever since then, he had to work double time to convince the liberals, like, no, I'm one of you. I'm one of you. Thus, the Russia hoax.
His social media activity post being fired by Trump, it's pretty obvious these two men absolutely despise each other. The infamous seashells post of 86-47, just randomly saw these seashells in this configuration and thought I'd toss it up on Instagram for no apparent reason. For those that aren't understanding that, 86 is to eliminate 47. Really embarrassing, but these guys hate each other. So let's just get into the charges themselves. I think it'll be helpful. So 2 charges. First charge, making a false statement. And the description of this is knowingly providing materially false information to Congress. Prosecutors must prove the statement was false, Comey knew it was false, and it could influence the inquiry. So the allegation here is that Comey denied authorizing an FBI official, his deputy, Andrew McCabe, to act as an anonymous media source about FBI probes into Person 1. This is implied to be Trump, and Clinton's emails. Evidence includes McCabe's claims and internal FBI communications suggesting that Comey directed the leak. So the penalty for that is up to 5 years. There's actually, I don't have it in front of me, but this is regarding what he said to Ted Cruz when Ted Cruz asked him directly about this. Did you authorize the leak? Did you know about it? The leak was about information regarding Russian collusion, and which is a crime, by the way. You can't just leak. Everything was leaking out of the Trump administration the first time, and it's a crime. The second one is obstructing of a congressional proceeding. This is acting corruptly to influence, impede, or impede a congressional investigation. Intent is key. Errors alone do not qualify. And the description on this is Comey's statements allegedly misled the committee's probe into the FBI leaks in 2016 election-related actions, including the Russiagate investigation, a 2018 DOJ Inspector General report, contradicted Comey, but ultimately supported his denial. Prosecutors now challenge that finding. Again, this could carry up to 5 years in prison as well. So a little bit of help too, because again, if you go Google this right now, a lot of places are going to say Russiagate was real, that there was Russian collusion. You find somewhere else, they'll say it's not. I just want to be very clear about the timeline.
They can't actually say it was refuted,
Right. August 2016. Comey allegedly briefed on Clinton campaign plan to link Trump to Russia as a distraction from her emails. This is per the indictment. In 2017, Comey testifies to Congress denying he authorized leaks about FBI investigations into Trump or Clinton. And as I said, 2018 DOJ IG report details McCabe's
is the
Inspector General, right?
Inspector General. And every major agency of the federal government has an office of Inspector General, and that person is sort of free to investigate other parts of that department. So we're talking about a Department of Justice IG report that detailed McCabe's claims that Comey authorized a link, but concludes evidence supports Comey's denial. McCabe is fired for unrelated false statements.
Yeah, that was really helpful context. And then in 2020, September 30th, Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, this was what I was talking about with Senator Ted Cruz, questions Comey, who reaffirms his 2017 testimony. He said, I stand by that testimony. Then September 20th, Trump posts on social media urging AG Pam Bondi to investigate Comey and critics. Early 2025, Trump fires acting U.S. Attorney Eric S. Siebert, who declined to pursue charges, and appoints Lindsey Halligan. Josh, you have a point on that?
I want to make sure, because on the timeline we're working on, it says 24, but this is this week. So this is September 20, 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably said it right, but I was
all good. And then, so then we get a grand jury indicting Comey, unsealing the same day. Statute of limitations near expiration was literally the day before. And then interestingly, Comey expects to self-surrender. His son-in-law, Troy Edwards, a federal prosecutor in the same district, resigns. And I believe he has 2 other family members working for the Department of Justice still. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all comes down. We have arraignment before U.S. District Judge Michael S. Nashmanoff by an appointee in Quorum 600.
Avoid a conflict of interest, right?
Right. So Comey has said via Instagram video, quote, "My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump. We will not live on our knees. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system. I'm innocent, so let's have a trial and keep the faith." Josh.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew McCarthy is, over at National Review, which has been very hypercritical of Trump, claims to be a conservative magazine. And Andrew McCarthy was saying, well, let's have a trial too, because he's worried. He thinks the charges are bogus, and he completely defends James Comey, which I find pretty shocking. But he's like, even he says, don't, if this were dismissed out of hand by this Biden judge, because it just, it's like a lottery, and this case is going before a judge that was appointed by Biden. If it gets dismissed, Andrew McCarthy says, I actually agree at this point, if the Biden appointed judge dismisses the case outright, that is going to be very bad for our country, because both sides, like the conservatives will rightly say, this is baloney. The Biden-backed judge is, no, have the trial. Let a jury look at the evidence. It would be better for our republic if a jury of his peers thinks he's guilty, then he should serve. And if the jury of peers says, sorry, there's not enough to convict you, I much prefer that than if a Biden appointed judge just dismisses the case out of hand. Even if the case, I mean, I'm not even a legal expert here. Even if under normal circumstances you'd say, well, let's dismiss this out of hand. Don't go through the motions, because it helps the republic if you do this.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not a legal expert either, but I remember how many charges were brought against Trump, many of which were novel financial crimes. Like that, yeah. It was like something so outrageous. Like if you go look at CNN headlines now, like, this is the darkest day of the republic. I can't believe you would use the full weight of the law against your political opponents, yada, yada, yada. And
oh, really? What a concept.
It's like hundreds of charges. He would have been in jail for like 1,000 years. The fines were in the billions. Like, okay. Like, again, I think this is good, because I think it's good for a couple of reasons, just from my cursory understanding. As we said, if you lie to Congress, knowingly lie to Congress, and you're leaking sensitive information, that is treasonous to America, to the country. And if we can't set a precedent and punish people that do that.
A lie to Congress, but it is absolutely unacceptable.
Well, the leaking, in my opinion, is treasonous. You're part of the leaking to media, Josh? Are you part of the Department of Justice?
Okay. It's very, very bad news. It's not always treason. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Sure.
Higher bar for treason.
Yeah, I want accountability. That's where I undone this.
I got you.
I'm not a legal expert. I think that this isn't.
I mean, leaving
what people are making
the
it to
southern
be.
border open for 4 years, as Joe Biden
treason.
said. I consider that treason. And in fact, if we're going to talk about stuff, I still think it's perfectly fine to impeach Joe Biden. He's out of office. Who cares? Do it to Barack Obama too, for everything he did to sabotage the country.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right. So let's move on now. So we're getting more information about the ICE shooting in Texas. That was really tragic. I believe one person has died, 2 people injured. All were immigrants that were being detained. But again, people are kind of playing the game. And I think as the more I'm in this, the more important I think it is to just establish facts, because with Russiagate, with the Charlie Kirk shooter, like, it was so shocking to me to read polls, people that think that this guy was a MAGA shooter or whatever. Like, people are going to run with whatever they're going to run with, and it's damaging because they just get entrenched in that belief. So I'm just going to lay out what we know now at this point. We brought it up on the show earlier last time. I want to get you what we know about the guy. So this is back in September 24th. Targeted shooting occurred at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office in Dallas, Texas. The gunman, identified as 29-year-old Joshua John, opened fire from a nearby rooftop, killing 1 ICE detainee and critically wounding 2 others inside a transport van. John died by suicide at the scene. So his background, what we know about him: he was arrested in 2015 in Collin County, Texas for marijuana possession. Charged in 2016 with felony delivery of marijuana, to which he pled guilty. He attended Collin College sporadically from 2013 to 2018 without graduating. Held short-term retail jobs, worked seasonal marijuana harvesting in Benton City, Washington, and briefly installed solar panels in Texas. He's been unemployed since 2019 and had planned to move to his parents' Oklahoma property. A former boss described him as a singularly motivated stoner obsessed with weed. Some other interesting tidbits. He was a registered independent voter in Oklahoma. He last voted there in November 2024 and participated in the 2020 Texas Democratic presidential primary, which, Josh, I think that doesn't necessarily suggest, because it's an open primary, right? People are trying to pin his political affiliations, but.
Well, I mean, look, it doesn't necessarily on its own mean that he's a left winger. I mean, whatever. I mean, the 2020 presidential primary was uncontested on the Republican side because Donald Trump was running for re-election. So maybe he wanted to, vote for one of the many, Democratic candidates on the presidential side and the other side. On its own, it's not enough.
I just want to check with you before we keep going. He had extreme gaming habits. He logged 17,400 hours on Steam. A lot of shooters. That's a lot of hours, brother, for a 29-year-old. Yeah. And he owned a car with a sign that said radioactive fallout from nuclear formations that have passed over these areas more than 2x since 1951. I believe that's a reference to, I don't want to say the game Fallout. It's a video game reference. I'm pretty sure of that, but just known, very online gamer. Weapon in preparation used an 8mm bolt action rifle purchased legally about 1 month prior. He arrived at the scene around 3 a.m. with a ladder to access the rooftop of a nearby attorney's office. And we've brought it up on the show previously. This followed a pattern of recent incidents against ICE facilities, including a July 4th graffiti gunfire assault in Alvarado, Texas, July 7th border patrol shooting in McAllen, Texas, and an August bomb threat at the same Dallas facility. So continuation of what's going on. The rhetoric, in my opinion, definitely contributes to that.
So my concern is like the copycat stuff. So like the guy who murdered the CEO of United Healthcare, he had written on his bullets a message.
Yeah.
Right. And so then that was then copied when the guy who assassinated Charlie Kirk, he wrote a message on the bullets. So copycat stuff. They're both using violence to advance their aims by eliminating people they think are wrong. And so now you got another guy, he's opening fire at ICE, which again, politicians, even the previous night, Gavin Newsom on late night talk show, talking about how we got pushed back against ICE. He had supported the legislation to unmask them in California. It's not going to be successful, but
which wouldn't do anything anyway, because ICE is federal, not.
No, I know it's the law can't. It's
right.
Total,
it's just like a total nonsense.
It's a message bill. It doesn't going to do anything. It's just going to take time. But then this guy who shot up at ICE, he also had messages written on the bullets. So
yeah,
this is one of those things where it's like, each of these incidences of left-wing violence, they believe that a mission was accomplished, because when the guy killed the healthcare CEO, he's lionized. When his charges were reduced in New York recently, that people are outside celebrating outside the courtroom, and then obviously we saw tens of thousands of people on social media celebrating the assassin of Charlie Kirk. And then now with this, again, it's like left-wing violence. Like, I'm doing what you want. I'm trying to take out ICE. So This is a major problem.
We have so what we have from the FBI right now in terms of motivation, a manifesto and notes. There were handwritten notes in John's car and home, including, quote, "Hopefully this will give ICE real terror," and statements about targeting agents involved in trafficking, as he described it. Handwriting analysis confirms they are his. Ammunition, as you said, unfired bullets inscribed with anti-ICE on them. And then digital footprint, he downloaded lists of DHS and ICE facilities, searched for apps tracking ICE agents' locations. One such app raised concerns about legality, research ballistics, and the 2024 assassination attempt on Charlie Kirk. Then they're saying the planning indicates months of preparation. Intended targets were ICE agents, not detainees who were collateral, acted alone. They're saying no ties to groups, extremists, or online communities so far. Now, Josh, I kind of want your 2 cents on this. That's what we know at this point. I saw Ted Cruz got in front of the cameras and gave a statement, and I have some thoughts I want to ask you about after this.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the 3rd shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop.
So, look, I get it, but I see Hassan Piker, here's a video of him. He's a very popular left-wing streamer. Here's what he had to say a couple months ago.
74 Bellevue Drive, and I'm gonna kill you with my AR-15. Like, that's the type of messages they were leaving in this dude's office, and he's resigning. So I think that people are a lot more radical now. This is an unprecedented time to really get others on board, to explain to them that it's not your neighbors, it's not like a Guatemalan migrant that is responsible for all the shit that you're going through on a daily basis.
You know, it's your neighbors, your bosses are fucking you over, it's family members are fucking you over.
And
Yeah, sorry for the language, but basically he described and praised what was done to get another person to resign and continued the encouragement of this type of activity. It feels like at this point. So, okay, what's been shot up? Minnesota, that Minnesota church's been shot up. The Charlie Kirk got assassinated. And now we get someone shoots into an ICE facility. I can't help but think, like, there has to be more that the government can do. You can't just say this needs to stop as if, great, they heard it. They said, no, we're not going to stop. We're actually going to continue. And now it just feels like I'm unsafe in my own country. Like, what could the government even do in this case to crack down on this? Is that even his free speech to encourage incitement of violence against government officials?
Well, look, if we actually had an FBI that was serious, I think, and let me explain to you why I think Donald Trump is expressing a lot of frustrations. Not only is, up until yesterday, not only was no one indicted for all the misdeeds like Comey. So finally Comey gets indicted, but why is he frustrated? Why is he so frustrated? So January 6th got out of hand, obviously, January 6th, 2021. Most Americans share the same kind of opinion I do. Peaceful people came to protest. Some bad agents got out of hand. Some things were bad.
Some literal FBI agents, which we know were in the crowd too. So
exactly. And the only person who got murdered was actually a protester, not a cop. The one cop that ended up dying had a heart attack from something else. It was not even related. But after January 6th, like within 7-8 days or whatever, the FBI had already arrested hundreds of people. Like they had found hundreds of these people and who would eventually get arrested and arraigned and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's been 2 weeks since Charlie Kirk was murdered. Like, where's the FBI? Why aren't they going after Antifa and all these others who are spreading hate? Well, we finally got Donald Trump to declare Antifa, a threat, a domestic terrorist group. But I'm waiting for them to make some. You can't tell me you don't know where these people are. You can't tell me where and find their funding sources and freeze some of these banks. They freeze the banks of people who just were showing up at January 6th. They didn't have any proof that they had done anything violent or wrong, and still they had their banks frozen. So people who actually are engaged in this criminal enterprise, who are involved in this domestic terror, like Antifa, actual terror, where's the full weight of the law to drop the hammer on these people? It better happen.
Yeah, I mean, I looked into because a couple things have been brought up already is that there are apps currently that we're questioning the legality of that show the location of ICE agents.
That needs to stop now.
Which is insane. And how do we not know?
How do we allow that? How did that last 10 minutes on an app?
Right, exactly. And so this happened too at Georgetown, actually, Catholic University. There's a gun club put out this, the John Brown Gun Club, which I'm going to get in John Brown in a second, put out these signs, said, "Hey, fascist Kess, the only political group that celebrates when Nazis dies, join the John Brown Club."
You said it almost too fast. Hey, yeah. Fascist, catch. In other words, the bullet. That's the whole reference.
Yes. And so I'm like, well, first off, that's insane that this showed up and it got taken down. And I think the university has apologized at this point. Linda McMahon's
talked about it. A lot of those signs are still up, dude.
Signs are still up. And then I looked into the John Brown Club. I was like, okay, well, what is this? It's a decentralized network of leftist pro-gun organizers in the United States focused on anti-fascist, anti-racist, pro-worker activism, named after the 19th century abolitionist John Brown. That's kind of a cute euphemism. I mean, he led race riots and murdered innocent people, led violent raids against slavery, including the Potawatomi Massacre. The group promotes armed community self-defense against perceived far-right threats, police violence, and state overreach. And I was like, okay, have they been involved in anything bad? 2019 Tacoma ICE attack. The Puget Sound chapter lead, Willem van Spronsen, was killed by police after firebombing an ICE facility with a rifle and Molotov cocktails, calling it an abomination in his manifesto. The chapter honored him as a martyr. 2025 Alvarado ICE shooting. The Elm Fork members, including Benjamin Song, were among the 15 charged in a July 4th attack on Texas ICE Center, firing at agents and injuring an officer. Song, accused of training militants at a Taekwondo studio, faced prior allegations of pepper spraying at a 2023 drag event. We know about these people. Like, this isn't even secret. I could join the John Brown Gun Club tomorrow. You're telling me there's not an FBI probe into these people already?
Exactly.
Clearly, we can get in priests. The FBI was so casual about just bugging people going to Catholic churches, going after radical traditionalist Catholics. And I'm like, that is wrong, because those people are not a threat. And that's an infringement on religious liberty. If there are people organizing to shoot ICE agents, that is wrong. That's a threat.
That should be prior.
That is a good use of the FBI.
You are absolutely
crazy?
Correct. So under the Biden administration, we had the FBI, as you noted, spying, authorized to spy on traditional Catholics. We also had the Biden Justice Department actually paid the National Abortion Federation to spy on the March for Life.
Yes.
Okay, so
all of this exists.
Now that's frustrating, but here's the point. Like, of all the things that our federal law enforcement agency should do is, let me think. Oh, if there are people who are targeting federal law enforcement officers, that should be like priority number one. Like, stop that. That's what you should stop. So why don't you stop paying attention on trying to persecute Catholics and spy on us, and maybe, I don't know, go after people who are trying to kill federal agents? The
only people that I see speaking very cogently on this is JD Vance and Stephen Miller. Like, they seem singularly focused on this. I'm not, I'm no expert in how to turn the gears of government.
Pretty good there too, which is good.
Yeah, but to me, I'm like, people are frustrated, and like I'm somewhat sympathetic that, yes, you're taking over a ship filled with people that were friendly to the last administration, and there's all these gears of government, and it's tough, yada yada yada. It didn't seem too hard for them to mobilize between 2020 and 2024. Like, now's the time. Like, I still,
Pam Bondi is turning out to be a major mistake. Like, I mean, she got Comey indicted, I guess, but like, we just had a political conservative, one of the greatest leading lights, assassinated. We saw a wave of left-wing hatred spewing out and celebrating his murder. We know about Antifa and these other, like Jane's Revenge, these domestic terrorist groups that are causing havoc. We see it obviously most clearly with the over 500 attacks on our churches, but the targeting of ICE agents, like, that should be the first thing out of every Republican's mouth for the next month, next year. Like, this is absolutely, you can't have a country if you allow your own law enforcement officials to be targeted in this way. Like, I get it. The left does not think we should be deporting millions of people who came into the country illegally. Guess what? We have elections. We get to determine this. And once we have the elections, guess what? Donald Trump promised to deport a lot of these people. If you don't like it, you don't create apps where you track ICE law enforcement officials.
I'm going to read this. I think this was a very interesting way to put all of this. Matt Walsh threw this up. And seriously, like, I feel like I'm going crazy, but just to read through this. Imagine that we had a Democrat administration. Now imagine that a right-wing radical shot and killed one of the most influential liberals in the country on live TV. Now imagine that thousands of other conservatives shamelessly celebrated the assassination and called for more of them. Now imagine in the same week, another right-winger shot up a country club while yelling MAGA, and another one shot up a news station and left behind a manifesto complaining about liberal bias in the media. Now imagine that a week after all those attacks, a conservative sniper perched on a rooftop fired into a Planned Parenthood clinic, killing or injuring multiple people. And imagine that this Planned Parenthood attack was just the latest in a string of them stretching back several months. Is there any doubt how the Democrats would respond? Is there any doubt they would wage a full-scale war on conservatives and have people like me frog marched in front of cameras in handcuffs and leg irons? Is there any doubt that they would declare martial law and label all right-wing expression incitement? Is there any doubt they would be rounding up conservatives by the busload and shipping us to Gitmo. Is there any doubt that they would have Fox News and every other conservative media company shut down and its executives arrested and sued into bankruptcy? I'm not even advocating for Republicans to do all that Democrats would do if the roles were reversed. I believe in the rule of law. I know that they would throw the rules out, chuck the Constitution into a wood chipper, and ruthlessly persecute us all if conservatives engaged in the kind of systematic campaign of political terrorism that the left is currently conducting. I don't want anyone to be persecuted. What I do want, what we all want, is for the Trump administration to do absolutely everything legally in its power to prosecute and punish every leftist responsible for committing, coordinating, funding, or inciting this epidemic of political violence. I want them to actually treat Antifa like the terrorist organization that it is and handle its adherents and affiliates in the same way we handle ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Now's the time, lives hanging in the balance. Crush the terrorists, do it now. That is a helpful framework for thinking.
I love it.
I mean, it's true. Like, we all watched what happened after George Floyd. There were riots, basically encouraged by, not even basically, encouraged, mostly peaceful protests. Mass mandates didn't apply, spacing didn't apply. And what they do, they burned down and looted many major cities. Like after Charlie Kirk died,
they
what do we do?
justified the burning. They justified it because this is the expression of someone Give me a break.
Give me a break on that. And then what did we do after Charlie Kirk died? We had a huge vigil, and it was peaceful, and there was prayer, and it was beautiful. And how was it labeled?
Candles. They like
but
buildings.
how was it handled by the mainstream press on the left? Christian nationalist rally, KKK adjacent. I'm not exaggerating. Look it up. That's how it was covered. Go look up the Nation article on it. So it's like, even that's why we get back to that speech that that Erica wrote in the video and you wrote as well. Like, you need to understand the game. You need to understand how it works. You can handle everything the exact perfect way. You can be the most principled conservative Christian of all time, and there are legitimate networks and forces in this country that will demonize you and attack you. And even if you handle it all the perfect way, you're still going to be the bad guy.
Absolutely.
That's the game
and we're expected to be, every single person who doesn't agree with the left-wing agenda is supposed to be as peaceful as St. Francis of Assisi,
perfect
as
victims,
eloquent as Fulton Sheen, right? As docile as Teresa of Lisieux. It's like, give me a break. We're humans, okay? And like when we see hypocrisy, you're like, this is crazy. So like remember like the left-wing Catholic, so-called Catholic columnist who called me one of the harshest of commentators, it's like,
yeah.
She said, you're full of hatred. I'm like, really? I'm full of hatred? I actually called her out. I sent her an email like, why you call me hatred? This is kind of like, well, I mean, you were, yeah, she did. She's like, well, you were circulating talking points that were, full of hate. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Oh man, don't be circulating those talking points, Josh. I mean, that's the thing. Like it's you can be good and principled and calm, but you can also take the measures necessary. And the measures necessary in this case, like how many more shootings and attacks need to happen before we can start addressing the root cause of these shootings into a church, at a conservative activist, and into a nice facility.
I mean,
seriously, it all points one way.
I mean, Erica and I wrote that essay and we talked about like, don't try to have a debate with somebody who's categorically insane. Someone like an Ilhan Omar who calls everyone who she disagrees with a terrorist. She says pro-lifers are terrorists, conservatives are terrorists. Just it's not good for you to try to argue with somebody who absolutely would cut you off at the knee and shoot you in the back of the head if she had the chance. Like, just, it's not worth your time and energy. You have to focus on what makes sense. And with regards to them, again, this is what the media, we have, like, start to understand what is the difference between, CNN and a political action committee. They both spend tons of money. They both promote the Democratic Party. One just has to file reports with the Federal Election Commission. That's the only difference. I mean, each of these media outlets are operatives of the Democratic Party. They support the main regime. There's a ruling class. There's an elite class in this country that wants international mass migration to destabilize the Western countries. That's absolutely what they're doing. When we see what's going on in England with mass migration, it's absolutely disruptive to England. And finally, over there, some of the right-minded people are saying the conservative party over there isn't doing enough and they got to join reform and to really mix it up. But you look at England, like, knock on your door. I'm sorry, you posted something on social media that was inappropriate. Come with us. We have handcuffs.
It's crazy.
This kind of stuff would be happening soon in our own country if Donald Trump had lost this last election.
California proposed a very similar speech law. It's in their state Congress right now. It's almost identical to what's going on in the UK. It's crazy. It really is crazy. It's getting there. And again, that's kind of even getting to the wrong point. I'm not saying that. That's why the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing is so annoying. It was never about free speech, and it was never about free speech. But of course, now he gets to be this martyr. He gets to come on. He gets his ratings up. Yada yada yada. And no, Pam Bondi, I don't want you to go after Office Depots about quote hate speech, which doesn't exist. I want you to go after people that are shooting at me.
Right.
And shooting at my people. We know who they are. We know the networks. You're not stupid. I know what the government's capable of. I saw it over the last 4 years.
Let's
do a percentage of that.
Let
people
the
that want to
keyboard
kill
warriors worry about Office Depot. You're the FBI. You're the Department of Justice. You go after the people who have guns and are trying to kill us.
Yeah.
How about that?
I want public pictures of, places that you've raided.
Do the perp walk.
Exactly. Right. That's what I want to see. All right, let's get into good news now. Bring me up, Josh. What you got?
Well, I mean, this is good news. Okay, so obviously we had that tragedy a few weeks ago in Florida where a semi-truck did a real quick jackknife turnaround on the freeway and it killed a whole family, like several people in the family. Tragic incident. Turned out that guy didn't even speak English, and he got his driver's license from California because California doesn't care if you speak English or not. Like, if you're driving a massive truck, you should be, I don't know, able to read signs which are in English, like a sign that says "Do not turn around here" unless you're a police officer. It's a freeway; you don't get to turn around here, especially if you're driving a big rig. So, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy has announced a plan to prevent illegal aliens from driving commercial trucks. This is again one of those things where, why is this even necessary? One of the reasons why the Democratic Party, they're starting to lose voters is because they can't help themselves from doing really idiotic things. And in this case, most Democrats across the country would say, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, if you're driving a semi-truck, you should actually have to know English. Yeah, that makes sense. But we're talking about Democrats in California, the most left-wing state practically in the country, and they just can't help themselves. So Sean Duffy said the process for issuing these CDLs is absolutely 100% broken. It has become a threat to public safety, and it's a national emergency that requires action right now. And again, he referenced that truck driver who killed 3 people in Florida.
There's another one that recently just came out.
Right. So, I mean, again, this is a case where it would be one thing if, it would not be. California is the state with the most number of people. Okay, so it's not like it's a tiny little, like Wyoming or whatever, where there's only like 500,000 people, right? There's millions. There's 20, 30 million people that live in California. So this is a big deal. But it's not just that it's California. You get a license in California, you can drive in all 50 states. So this is a national problem that California has racked on us. And so I applaud Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. I know him. He's a very good man. His wife is wonderful too. Great family. They got like 9-10 kids. He is outstanding. He's a great public servant, and I'm glad that they jumped on this. He says California has 30 days to fix this.
Love me some Sean Duffy.
He's awesome.
Speaking of big families,
I voted for this.
Yeah, I did too. Speaking of big families, I have 2 posts related to big families. Really beautiful. I think it's going to be a good change of pace from frustration on today's episode. So this guy, OW Root, he has a great account. I highly recommend following on Twitter. And the picture, it was since deleted, was of a living room that looked like a bomb went off. Like stuff everywhere, super messy.
You're figuratively a bomb. You're just saying an absolute mess. Yeah.
Figuratively. Every parent of toddlers or kids knows what I'm talking about, but just, horrible scene. And someone just talked about it on Twitter, and he wrote something really beautiful I thought I'd share with everyone. Said, almost every working parent who has multiple kids who aren't glued to the TV or iPad all day is going to experience some kind of scene like this at some point. I remember one time during the first trimester of one of my wife's pregnancies, she was so sick that I was taking care of a lot. I was trying to get work done and make dinner and clean up the kids, and it just wasn't happening. Well, it was happening, but it was an absolute train wreck as it was happening. I took a video of it because it was just so bad that it had become downright hilarious in the absurdity. The table was part arts and crafts, part food scraps, and toys that needed to be put away. The floor was terrible. The dishes were piled up in a garish way. I think it took me 2 hours to clean that kitchen and dining room after somehow getting the kids in bed, and then I went down to my office and worked. Ultimately, you have two choices with kids. You can have iPad kids or kids that make messes. Even if your kids are the cleanest kids in the world, even if you are a great cleaner and you have the great systems in place, those kids are not going to make messes, and those kids are going to make messes and screw stuff up at a rate that you will not be able to keep up with from time to time. It's just the fact of the matter. We do our best, and my wife has developed some great systems to keep our small house clean. I think clean spaces help us think better, or at least help me think better, but God knows we've had those days. Our basement looks like a bomb went off, and our backyard is a hellhole. The truth is, if you've got multiple kids who are playing and drawing and painting and creating and pretending and wrestling and coloring and running around and digging for fossils and then washing them off in the bathroom and just having a childhood of joy and play, things are going to get messy from time to time. That's a metaphor, obviously. Thought that was really beautiful.
Spoke to your heart there, brother, huh?
Sure did, man. We're going through it. But then, speaking of Sean Alexander, the former running back for the Seahawks, he was on a early Madden game that I had as a kid. He has 14 kids, or he's about to have his 14th. So here's his announcement on it.
What you're doing with your wife, Valerie, very, very cool. It's Harvest Covenant Football. It's it's educational. It's geared towards education and sports, right? Sports opportunities, and also a little faith, a little biblical discipleship to people who maybe it's like about homeschooling. What do we need to know here? Look at this beautiful family, Sean. Wow.
Oh, that's so
oh my
wild.
gosh.
So we have had 10 girls, 3 boys. My oldest son, the 4th overall, Joseph, is a sophomore in high school. And, you know, since we homeschooled, they won the Super Bowl in 7th grade and 8th grade. There was no way for him to play in the public schools, at least not in Virginia. And so at DMV, so we created a homeschool co-op, and we invited all the homeschool kids in there to play football. And we started Harvest Covenant, so we got, great thriving families, individual academics, dynamic sports, and dynamic faith. And so it's all about, helping people become the best version of themselves, teaching them about faith and how to go walk this out. And it just happens that we get to play some great football. And I've got some boys that can play, that they're some college kids that play college football.
So he was talking, and then later he announces that he's having his 14th child. He was the first one to do it. And of course, like, social media just blew up. I think the funniest thing I saw on it was Phillip Rivers is really punching air right now because he has 9 kids. And actually, shout out, I went to college with one of the Rivers, one of his siblings, which is hilarious. But I mean, just such a beautiful family. I saw the picture, I think it was the picture that they showed in there too, of this beautiful family. So here's some of the names. if you're curious on his faith, we have Heaven, Trinity, Eden, Joseph, Justice, Temple, Honor, Jedediah, Torah, Eternity, Hosanna, Hope, and Judea. Sadly, their 9th child, Torah, died 70 days after birth, 2017. But yeah, having his 14th. And then he was asked about a typical day in his life. He said, from 1:30 to 4:30, I'm doing something related to homeschooling for my kids or spending time with them. At 5 p.m., we usually have a big family dinner. 6 to 8, typically family time, and our kids are usually being put to bed from 8 to 9 p.m. It's one of the greatest running backs of all time. Big, beautiful family. Congratulations on the 14th. So cool to see, like, good fatherhood engaged too. All with the same woman. He's been married to the same woman the entire time. Really beautiful. I just thought I'd share that because I was like, Sean Alexander. Like, I used to play Madden. He was on the Madden cover. Okay, so we have one more show. This is actually from Tennessee State. So I thought I'd bring this up. Here's the news story on it. The way this was covered by the news is interesting to what actually happened. So we're already starting to get some Charlie Kirk. I don't know if, like, they were inspired by Charlie Kirk. They want to go have good conversations on college campuses. This is from a group called Fearless Debates Tour. They have the goal of honoring the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk and opening a dialogue on political topics. It said, quote, if you want to talk to people who disagree with you, you go to the place where people disagree with you. This is the member Cam Higbee said this. We are not going to be caught at Liberty University trying to talk about conservative values. It's not productive and it doesn't accomplish anything. We are not going to make them deeper in their convictions with their beliefs. So they went to Tennessee State University, and I'll show the video of what happened. Crazy. So here's the beginning, which has actually seemed like a good conversation. And actually, let me share too what the signs on their table said. Their two signs claim said DEI should be illegal, and then the next one was deport all illegals now. This was set up with a white table, microphones, kind of the Charlie Kirk style. So I'll share the video of how it went.
Part of our systems is for people of color.
All of it. The entire system is for everybody. Anybody who's an American citizen.
So you feel like there's nothing. So you feel like everybody is equal.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's equal in their rights, but not everybody's obviously equal in their, what they have. Like, I grew up in a double wide trailer. He grew up in Boca Raton, so, we didn't grow up equal. We're both white. I mean, he's a Jew, so that's probably why he grew up in Boca Raton. But so we're not equal in what we possess as we start always, but we are equal in what we're allowed to do, our opportunity.
Can I ask you, do you think that there's any law that allows me to do something that you can't do, for example?
I don't think there's any laws that say that you can do something that I can't. But then again, this system can't be ignored. Like, we can't just say it does not exist.
So anyway, good encounter with this guy, which a lot of respect to this young man. And then quickly we get a mob forming, and this is what ends up happening. Sorry, they're just fast forwarding it here. Let me get the volume back on. So we get a mob kind of form as Tennessee State University. Start taking the signs down. If someone ran away with a sign.
Come on, really? Seriously? Yo. Guys, we're literally just here to have civil discussions.
Police are not there.
Well, they're there.
Yeah, I said police are now there. Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Taking the signs away again. And they eventually got chased off campus by this mob. So this is at Tennessee State. Do you have any guesses on what they thought about this? The behavior of the students, maybe like the engagement with the ideas, do you think? Any guesses?
I'm sure the statement by the university was pretty pathetic.
I'm going to read it off. Today, a group of individuals unaffiliated with Tennessee State University appeared on campus without prior notice. In accordance to our university policy, any demonstration or protest activity that requires approval and permitting. Campus police and staff responded promptly, and the individuals were escorted from university ground without incident. At all times, TSU students conducted themselves in a professional and respectful manner.
And respectful.
Safety and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff remain our highest priority. TSU will continue to uphold university policies and ensure that campus remains a safe, welcoming, and orderly environment for all members of our community.
They were so confident in their statement, they did not allow anyone to reply to it on Twitter.
Yeah, they turned replies off, which is typically admission of guilt. I also saw your buddy Kristen Hawkins too. Had a table flipped on Harvard. We had All Human Life Valuable National Campus Tour. Woman pushing a stroller told her students this is embarrassing about a pro-life display, admitted she'd had an abortion, then violently flipped over our entire table. So, disappointed.
It's par for the course. I mean, college universities, will use any excuse. In this case, these students were not. These two people were from outside. They weren't students. Therefore, anything is okay. Like this behavior is acceptable because of that. What if those the two students in question were what if the two people in question were actual Tennessee State students? Well, then they wouldn't have that excuse, and they'd still, blah 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 blah.
They'd find a way around it. I'm
Give
sure.
me a break. Like why can't colleges be embarrassed that something like this happens and a mob forms?
I think you really should be.
Hey.
You should be embarrassed of this, and it's kind of. I mean, the whole thing's kind of an embarrassment. Like, It's just, I think I'm happy that this was actually recorded and that the kids got their side of the story out, because the way that it was being treated by the media was if they were there terrorizing black students. That was the narrative that got pushed out, by the way. Right. And then of course you see, and shout out to the first young man who's just engaging with them and talking. And then it became a race mob real quick. And I mean, higher education isn't the whole point. Like, we live in a liberal society. It's where you can debate ideas, you know, isn't that was Charlie's entire legacy. It's like, when we stop talking, you know, when we stop able to disagree, we're going to come apart at the seams. And like, to me, that school is just a total joke and facade, or maybe just higher education as a whole has kind of become that, where you can't actually discuss ideas respectfully.
It's one thing if it's Tennessee State, but you mentioned it happened to Students for Life over at
Harvard
campus. Harvard.
Right.
So
what are the point of these universities? you know what I mean? What are the point of universities at this point? Other than
I
this,
feel like it's office space. What is it that you do here?
Seriously, I mean, it's become kind of a credential cartel in my view, and it's clearly not. These two instances don't demonstrate to me that the universities are forming the character of the individual and elevating their critical thinking levels to a place where they can become, you know, a greater person and understand nature better. And like, this is embarrassing. Like, everyone should just be embarrassed by this. Race, creed, doesn't matter.
What is college? I mean, this is why we need to have these conversations. For a lot of businesses trying to hire employees, going to college for 4 years just proves that you'll show up at the same place for 4 years in a row. So that you're like, if I hire you, you'll actually stay there. They're not actually convinced that you're learning a ton of stuff.
I used to believe that college is basically like a 4-year litmus test. Like, I thought that was somewhat convincing at one point in time. It's like, well, you can show up, you can do assignments, you can turn it in. And I'm like, that's really that's such a low bar now that we have for higher education in America. You can show up and turn in assignments. ChatGPT can do that.
But hey, guess what?
And Tennessee, I'm not anti-university, by the way.
Ultra-red state, Tennessee, you've got a Republican legislature, Republican governor. Maybe you should fix some of these universities.
Yeah.
Time for some reform. And if they don't reform, shut them down.
Yeah, this is, I mean, so ridiculous. This whole thing is so ridiculous.
Like,
frustrated.
Daycare for man children.
Like, it actually is important that your education forms your character and helps you understand your place in nature, gives you a good view of history, gives you an idea of humanities and philosophy and ways to think and ways to engage. So that's why I'm not anti-university. I'm not anti the university, the idea of university or the ideals of university. It's just they've so demonstrably failed that over and 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 over again for decades now. I don't even know what the solution is. Cut off federal aid. I don't think we're being extreme enough on universities.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump's trying to do that. I mean, look, right now, we had transformed a system where kids could just endlessly borrow money practically. And then we tightened that up, and kids can only borrow like $5,500 their first year in college. And parents then can get a federal loan. And so it's now on the backs of the parents. And so then parents are now more involved in this economic decision, what school the kids should go to. And I saw all these sob stories, like, my kid wants to go out of state to Penn State, and it costs $30,000 for out of state tuition. It's like, well, is it worth it then? I mean, I'm going through this stuff. I mean, I went to college. I know I graduated 26 years ago. Okay. So, but I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, $14,000 for housing? Like, what are you in Manhattan? This is retarded. Pardon my French. I shouldn't say it's a bad word.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's insane. It is insane. And so we haven't had cost savings. We haven't had people looking into this stuff. Now, Trump is saying now there's going to be a max of how much parents can borrow. It's like it's like $20,000 per year or something like that, and $60,000 per total cap on kids over the course of their time in college. Because it's like, you know what? We have to put some sort of cost saving mechanism, because everything colleges are doing right now, I'm the whole lot. I'm not trying to single out any one sector, but colleges right now, what they're offering is way much more expensive than it has to be by a factor of 3 or 4x. I think they can offer what they're doing much more affordably, but they feel they got to compete.
I'll be back. Give me a minute.
And the federal loans are there. And so because for decades, federal loans were just available at super cheap, Well, what happened? What incentive was there for all these colleges to make it more affordable? They just stopped making it affordable. And the cost every year was going up 7%, 8%, 9%, to the point where families can't afford it anymore. The idea, it used to be previous generations, baby boomers, even Gen X. My wife went to college and she mostly paid her way through it. By the time she graduated, I don't think she had much loans at all. I think we need to get back to that kind of a system. So, again, I do think colleges and universities were so awash in cash, and they could just start hiring whoever they wanted to, like all these DEI departments, all these gender studies, all that stuff. It all flourished. It's like, was there a big demand at every state university to have gender studies, American Indian studies, Black studies, all this other stuff? I mean, I'm not saying we should never have it anywhere ever, some of it, but like, it does seem so out of place. Colleges have been so flush with cash, and they haven't had any customer. And well, now finally, some of them are going bankrupt because they're over bloated. Tom, we don't have you anymore, do we?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm having infamous camera issues. Let's see.
Well, I mean, while we wait here, let me dive into my climate Twilight Zone. I thought this was a pretty interesting clip. I actually got it from Joe Rogan, passed along, but it wasn't on the Joe Rogan program. This guy, I think he was a geologist or something like that. He was on a podcast that's done by the actress who was in Blossom 25 years ago or whatever. I never watched the show, but I reckon, and then she was also on, what's that other show? The nerd show. I didn't watch that one either. All the computer geeks. Anyway, so that, I thought this was a pretty good. Hey, we're back. We're back.
Yeah, I got the
backup cam.
Backup cam, yeah.
Big Bang Theory. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah. So this actress, I guess, must have her own podcast, and she brought this geologist on, and it was actually a quite striking argument he brought up. I hadn't heard this one before, but it sounds like it makes a lot of sense.
I'll see.
Ready?
It's a fact. I've been talking about it since. Another example. I'm going to use climate change as a geologist. I'm very passionate about this.
You believe in it?
Climate change is a fact. I've been talking about it since. I've been talking about it since 1979. It's also a fact that humans are not causing it. Humans are not causing it, and the real scientists know
cow
this.
farts.
It's not the cows. I'll tell you. I mean, NASA knows this. NASA knows that over 90% of the CO2. There is an increase in CO2. Okay, it's just I made a statement, and I just want to justify this. Is there more CO2 in the atmosphere now than there was 10 years, 20, 50, 100 years ago? The answer is absolutely yes. Is it a bad thing? The answer is no. Is it the most we've ever had? We're right about 440 parts per million right now. In geologic history, we're looking Cretaceous over 1,000, or the Jurassic over 1,000 parts per million, Triassic 2,000 parts per million. The Earth was lush, the Earth was green, life was abundant during that time. And what we see in geologic history, and this is fascinating to me, there are times when CO2 levels are high and the temperatures are low. And times when just the opposite is happening. It's not necessarily a one-to-one correlation. Where's the CO2 coming from? NASA knows. I've got a bunch of videos on this. Over 90% of the CO2 is coming from the oceans, warming. Warm water holds less gas. Here's the kicker. The oceans are warming from underneath, not from the top. If it was from the CO2 on the top, the warming of the air, it would be coming from the top. It's warming. The glaciers are melting from underneath. The CO2 is coming. The oceans are warming from underneath from tectonic processes that happen about every 12,500 years that people just don't want to talk about. It is a tectonic process that begins in the core, translates perturbations into the mantle, into the crust, the weak areas of the crust. You see more tectonic activity, more volcanic activity, was exactly what we were seeing.
Isn't that amazing? So 90% of the extra carbon in the air comes from tectonic shifts warming up the ocean, which is then releasing more carbon into the atmosphere. It's got nothing to do with man-made stuff. But what has the left done? The left has said there's more carbon in the air. That's because of man, because we're we're because of our energy, and we need to stop it. We need to pass all these draconian efforts that would clamp down on domestic oil production and coal production and all that other kind of stuff. Why? So that they can give money to their Democratic allies behind these green projects. So this to me was extremely illuminating. I just can't. I mean, like, it frustrates me so much that scientists would know what's actually going on and just allow people to go out there and lie through their face.
Yeah, I think this, what's funny about this, and I maybe I'm just out there on this. I think people are so frustrated about climate change as the word because of the first part of this interview, not the second part of the interview. I think most people of good faith care about the planet and don't want us to all, don't want to ruin it and don't want to pollute.
Of course, right. Can't hear you now.
I don't know what's going on today, man.
Now we got it. Yeah.
Okay, I think people are angry at the first part where she's like, oh, you're saying like, oh, don't tell me you're one of those people that doesn't believe in climate change, because she's not saying that you don't believe in, say, the taking care of the planet. She's saying in that instance, she's signaling that you're not trustworthy or you're not smart because you don't believe in my very specific interpretation of this political application to the question of how we take care of the planet. In what you said, where it's used then to reward your friends and punish your enemies, or make really drastic things that hurt the economy and have tertiary effects that doesn't help anyone. And then you get to score political points for being somehow morally more virtuous than the other side. Like, I haven't met anyone
They're
that's
treating
been
it like
I hate the planet, I want to kill it. You know what I mean?
They're treating it like, do you believe in gravity? Do you believe that the
It's
Earth
religious.
is round?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not like that. First of all, the question is, as this guy said, is there more carbon in the air? Yes, there is. Are humans responsible for it? No. Like, thank you. Like, it's so refreshing to have somebody who's just like speaking truth to power. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to all interpretations there. I think I'm more frustrated with the politicization of it, and then the use to basically socially demonize or cut out people that don't want to. They just want to score moral points with it instead of actually working with solutions.
Even if we were contributing to it, like if shutting down all of our energy created like a massive famine in our country and millions of people starved to death, that's not a solution. Let's work on something. This is what I'm saying. It becomes so hard to try to come together and propose solutions and policies that can, weigh the different pros and cons and balance all this different stuff. That is so much harder to do when one side is just like, la, 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 la. Do you believe in this? Do you believe in this? As if it's like a religious incantation. And we're not like allowing ourselves to actually think critically at all. It's so stupid.
And it's disturbing to me too that because based on the set of assumptions that are in, polite society, I guess, or the good society, according to climate change people, is to not have children anymore.
Right. I mean, that's the whole thing. I think it's just an excuse.
Right. It's like, it's basically an excuse to have less kids, or like because you're responsible for the damage to the climate. Therefore, you should have less children. Therefore, we should exert this control over your lives.
The Cape Crusader in the comments saying, remember what was global cooling? I remember, because they got Leonard Nimoy, the famous actor who played Spock in Star Trek. He did a video on this like in 1978 where he's talking about global cooling.
So
beam me up.
I gotta have you one. Then I'm gonna end with a light one. Okay. Heavy one. I just got to give a lot of credit to this guy, Nick Minnock, over in Fairfax, Virginia. He's a reporter. So we had witnesses testify against a sex offender and accused Arlington school exposure case. Now, I mean, I almost just need to straight read through this because it's so shocking, but this is why, based on the video that you and Erica were a part of, it's important to speak the truth and never compromise, because this is the logical conclusion to transgender ideology. So registered sex offender Richard Cox was back in Arlington, Virginia courtroom Thursday for a lengthy preliminary hearing. Cox is accused of exposing himself to multiple women and children in Arlington Public Schools girls' locker rooms. Those facilities have pools that are open to the public outside of school hours. A dozen witnesses testified in the preliminary hearing for the Cox case, including women who said they saw him naked in the women's locker rooms in Arlington County's Wakefield High School, Washington Liberty High School, and Barcroft Sports and Fitness Center. One witness said that when she and her 5-year-old daughter went into the girls' locker room after a swim class, Cox, who identifies as a woman but is still physically male, was standing naked in the shower stall with the curtain open, touching himself. Sorry to be graphic, but a 5-year-old had to see this in Virginia.
Yeah,
on another
we
occasion,
don't like to be graphic, but this stuff is happening.
This is happening. It's happening now.
We're trying to stop it.
So for anyone wondering, how is this possible? Arlington County and Arlington Public Schools allow people to use locker rooms and bathrooms of their choice based on their chosen gender identity, and then allowed Cox to use the women's locker rooms. Again, this is what he looks like. This is not a woman. In court Thursday morning, Cox repeatedly insisted he is a woman and insisted the judge order the prosecutor to stop misgendering him and to use female pronouns. Again, this guy's a sex offender, twice convicted. The judge declined.
That is huge.
Later in the hearing, an Arlington police officer who responded to complaints last December testified that he waited for Cox to come out of the women's locker room for an hour. When the officer finally went into the locker room, he said he found Cox sitting naked on a bench. This is in the women's locker room around children. An Arlington detective also testified she found child pornography on Cox's phone and child's gymnastics class schedules for the Barcroft Sports and Fitness Center. The Arlington detective testified she also found children's swimming lesson schedules for Fairfax County rec centers on Cox's phone. The Arlington prosecutor told the court that these facts speak clearly to Cox's motive for visiting these facilities, obviously. Fairfax County Police Chief Ken Davis has defended his department's decision not to file charges against Cox for his visits to Fairfax County rec centers, saying Fairfax County's policy set by the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors and the Park Authority allows people to use locker rooms based on gender identity.
We have a right to masturbate in girls' locker rooms? Like,
according to the law. I mean, he passed this on basically and said, well, not my problem. I'm just enforcing the law as it is.
I mean, he's got child porn on his phone. Prosecute him.
Davis has said Cox is not allowed to visit Fairfax rec centers in the future. Wow, tough penalty.
Ooh.
This guy's a level 3 sex offender. And for the last year, he's been in and out of around children's women's centers. We have an election coming up in Virginia. And the Democrat running for it was asked about what she thought about it and gave the most non-answer answer I've ever heard, to the point where her comms took away from her, on whether or not men should play in women's sports, whether or not men should be in women's bathrooms. This happened in Fairfax, Virginia. And if you don't have a crystal clear answer on whether or not men should be in women's bathrooms, you should not be around any power ever. Trump was correct to identify this as a winning issue. It is. I cannot imagine how enraged I would be.
You know, a lot of times at bigger facilities like this, they'll have like the main large, men's room, bathroom, the large women's room, and there might be like a smaller little area that says a family restroom, and so like if a mom is, got a mom or a dad has got a couple kids, they just got to change diapers, and another one has to use the toilet, they have a little room there where you can do it as a family. Like if you're a dude who thinks you're a girl, use that room. If there's no one else in there, obviously, and you have a little room, you can do whatever you want to. But of course, no, what this guy wants to do, he's hijacking the trans agenda so that he can go in and lust over not just women, but young girls. Like this guy should I'm just astounded by it.
Seriously, I'm truly astounded.
He's got child porn on his phone. He's masturbating in a women's locker room. I mean, like the guy belongs in prison.
I just want to be crystal clear. I have to bring this up.
He's a woman. Look at this photo.
I have to bring this up. This is disgusting. I'm enraged by it, but I seriously need to bring it up. My tolerance is completely out for people that support an ideology that this is the logical conclusion of, or has a loophole. This guy knows this loophole exists and is doing it anyway. And we have the county board or whatever, or the police in Fairfax refuse to charge this guy because it's not illegal under the laws. So there's a reason why you get involved in politics. There's a reason why your vote matters. This is a logical conclusion. And this is years and years and years and years of activism, decriminalizing sex crimes. Go check out Scott Wiener out in California. There's real pernicious, evil forces trying to decriminalize sex crimes, number one, and two, legitimize transgender ideology in law. I mean, there's the balloons because I threw up a peace sign and my camera's insane. That was an insane moment on the LOOPcast. In law, this is getting legitimized. And it was by the Biden administration. I remember what happened at the White House during the Pride celebrations. I remember how they used Title IX. So yes, it's important to be prayerful, to be vigilant, and of course to have your house in order. But if you're not interacting in the political process and you leave a vacuum, it gets filled. And it gets filled by this. This guy was illegally in a bathroom with a 5-year-old girl, schedules on his phone, child porn on his phone, and there's nothing the law could do about it. And really, we really only have ourselves to blame. I cannot believe that this ever happened.
That's what Democrats of Virginia want. That's what Democrats all across the country want. It's up to us.
You need to have a real clear answer on that.
What do we want as a country?
You got to have a real clear answer on that. And if your politician can't provide it, you can't vote for them. I mean, that's like the most sure. Anyway, I'll end in a light one because that was so disgusting. I needed to bring one up. So, this one. Sorry, this one makes me laugh because I remember the campaign of 2024 for Kamala Harris. So here is someone writing about the male loneliness crisis. Said, quote, "Among my friends, the sort of women J.D. Vance likes to mock as miserable losers, the male loneliness crisis has became a bitter joke. We discussed possible cures, becoming a deadhead, getting into cycling, poker nights. We made approving comments when we saw straight guys doing things together, like the time a group of dads showed up at someone's Pilates class. There are movies and TV shows about the problem of contemporary manhood, some concerned, adolescence, some satirical, friendship. Mark Zuckerberg, whose male-to-male transition included bulking up, putting on an XL t-shirt, and a gold chain, became a fan of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, told Joe Rogan that the corporate world has become culturally neutered and needs more masculine energy. He has proposed AI friends as one solution." Derek Thompson, who is a liberal writer.
Total left, yeah. I can't.
Total lib. Okay. Picks out the quote, "Me and my female friends think that the male loneliness crisis is pretty funny, is fine, group chat fodder, but it's a weird thing to keep saying in a lefty essay that's ostensibly trying to figure out how and why men are fleeing the left." Great point. You've come to find out the author of this piece was profiled last year by the New York Times. She is currently going to raves and dating a DJ at age 43. I think also the problem too is many of the writers on Kamala Harris' campaign were these type of people. Live in New York City, going to raves at 43, dating a DJ. And we're I don't know why we're still checking the record on why men are not attracted to this kind of thing. And then this was the best one that I saw, and it was Dem Com's hiring litmus test. Explain why this is wrong. And it was the Tim Walz tweet playing Madden. AOC can run a mean pick six, and I call an audible on a play. And we both know that if you take the time to draw up a playbook, you're going to use it.
Here's I
actually laugh at this, Josh. Do you know how many comms workers had to look at this and say, this is a fine tweet?
When you're talking, as somebody noted yesterday, if you're talking about a vice presidential candidate, which Tim Walz was when this tweet was sent out, the sheer dozens and dozens, perhaps 100 people would have looked at this tweet before it was sent out. And not a single one of them would have said, actually, you don't run a pick six. There's no options like, let's run a pick six. That doesn't make sense. A pick six means your defense intercepts the football and runs it in for a touchdown. That's what it means to pick it. You pick the play. You can't say, I'm just going to, here's our plan. I'm going to intercept something. It doesn't work like that. You hope you intercept the other guy's pass. This is what I'm getting at, though. Like, look, I live in rural northern Michigan, and there are a lot of people up here that love to go hunting. If I ever ran for office, which I do not plan on doing, I'm not going to be like, look at me with my gun. I love guns. I do love guns. I don't hunt. I have guns to protect my family. I'm not going to pretend to be a hunter when I'm not a hunter. I'm not a hunter. Okay. And so I just wish Tim Walz would have been like, in this case, would have been like, yeah, I played it. I love playing video games, whatever. But he had a show because he's a football coach, right? He's a football coach, and he calls he didn't even get the tweet right. Remember, this is the guy who said he was a football coach. Stop pretending to be something you're not.
I'm surprised he didn't write the tweet in Mandarin for his 30 visits to China. I mean, there's nothing about Tim Walz that made sense, dude. What?
The biggest phony ever. And now he's running for governor.
Still doesn't. Again. Yeah, running for governor. He's probably going to win too. Oh man. So yeah, like anytime people are like, oh man, how did Kamala lose the men vote? We got to get men back. Maybe you should employ some real men to actually write, because then they would actually understand what's going
No,
on.
real men don't want to work for these people.
That's probably the more fundamental point that you're making there. Go run a pick six. Okay, ending in daily prayer today. Thanks for joining today. We have St. Michael Novena is still going on. It's not too late to join. Selena, if you want to throw that link in the chat, if you guys want to join up, that'd be awesome. But today we got the prayer to Saints Cosmas and Damien. I was like this close to naming my child after Saint Damien. But into that prayer, I send you off for a great week, and we'll be ready to go with you on Monday. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. O Saints Cosmas and Damien, we honor and venerate you with humility and affection. We invoke you, glorious martyrs of our Lord, who exercise the art of healing with charity and sacrifice, curing the incurable, and administering with the aid of medicine through Christ. Now that you are more powerful in heaven, at the sight of the many ills which oppress us, the spiritual and corporal diseases that surround us, hasten your help. We do not ask ourselves only, but for our relatives, families, and friends and enemies, so that, restored to health of body and soul, we can give glory to God and honor to you, our saintly protectors. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks for joining, guys.